You know, there are silences in life that are louder than any scream. And mine sounded like an empty chair at the dinner table. Every single night, I used to stare at that chair like it might fill itself if I just waited long enough. That somehow, someday, a man with tired eyes and a rough voice would come through the door and sit down. Just sit down and everything would make sense. But he never did. I don't even have a picture of him. Not one, not a name I can say without flinching. Just stories, second-hand echoes, a shadow that shaped my childhood like a sculptor with no face. And every time someone asked, "Where's your dad?" I'd lie, because how do you explain a ghost to someone who only believes in what they can see? I was 6 the first time I asked about him. Mom was folding laundry. I remember it because she paused mid-fold. Her hands froze on one of my shirts. Her face didn't change. Not really, but something in the room did. "Your father, he had to go," she said. That was it. He had to go, and I believed her. For years, I believed she meant something noble. Like he had some kind of mission. Like he was saving lives. Like maybe he'd be back one day and I'd get to say, "Hi, I'm your son." But the years piled up, and the truth grew teeth. Other kids talked about their dads like they were superheroes, or monsters, or best friends. I had silence, an unanswered question tucked beneath my pillow, a name I didn't know how to spell. As I got older, I told myself it didn't matter. I didn't need him. I had my mom. I had her fierce love, her tired eyes, her endless sacrifice. She was everything. But deep down, there's always been a space carved out for him, like a jigsaw puzzle missing its final piece. You don't need it to see the picture, but you can't stop looking at the hole. I tried to fill it with mentors, coaches, a neighbor who taught me how to change a tire, but none of them could answer the question I never stopped asking. What would it have been like? Just once. Just one conversation, one handshake, 1 second where his eyes met mine and something unspoken passed between us. Even now, I wonder, what if I have his laugh? What if I stand like he did? Tilt my head like he used to? What if I've already met him and never knew? I've built a life from scraps. Resilience, some call it. I call it survival. But beneath the achievements, the relationships, the version of me I show the world, there's always been this thread of curiosity running through me. A thread that, when pulled, unravels everything. And one night, not long ago, I pulled it. I went looking, not because I needed to confront him, not because I wanted answers. I just wanted to see, to know, to sit in front of the man whose blood runs through mine and say, "Here I am, the boy you left behind. What do you see?" They say time heals all wounds, but time can't stitch up what it never touched. Absence doesn't age gracefully. It festers in the dark corners of your memory until it becomes something more than pain. It becomes identity. So that's where this story begins. With a man who grew up wondering who he was because half of him was missing. With a single decision, made in a quiet room at 2 a.m., staring at a glowing screen and typing the words, "How do I find someone I've never met?" They say curiosity is dangerous, but I think it's worse to live without it. It started with a name I wasn't even sure was real. One night, after weeks of hovering over that search bar, I typed it in. First name, last name, a rough city, a maybe birthday. My palms were sweating, heart racing like I was committing a crime. No results found. Of course, nothing's ever easy when you're chasing ghosts, but something changed after that. I'd opened the door and now I couldn't close it. Old family friends, a box of old bills, one of my mom's half-written letters I wasn't supposed to find. It wasn't much, but it was enough. I pieced together fragments like a detective chasing a cold case. He was in Houston for a while. He worked construction. He had a motorcycle. He drank too much. He left before I was born. That last part, that hit different. He didn't just leave me. He never even tried. Still, I kept digging. Not because I thought I'd find a happy ending God. No, but because maybe, just maybe, I could make peace with the beginning. And then one night, I found him. An old arrest record. Mugshot grainy and worn. But those eyes, they looked like mine. I stared at the photo for hours. I zoomed in, zoomed out, paced the room like the walls could tell me what to do. Do I call him? What would I even say? What if he hangs up? What if he doesn't? I didn't sleep that night. I barely breathed. And the next morning, I dialed. The phone rang 3 times. Then silence. Then a voice, rough, older than I imagined, and completely unsuspecting. Hello. I froze. Years of questions, dreams, and fury. And all I could say was, "Is this Michael?" A pause. "Yeah." "Who's this?" I hesitated. Everything in me wanted to run, but I didn't. I took a breath and said it. "I think I'm your son." There's no guidebook for what comes next. No script for how a man reacts when the past knocks on his door and calls him dad. He went quiet. For a long time, I thought maybe he hung up. But then I heard it. A shaky breath, and 2 words that broke something open in me. Oh God. The weeks that followed were a blur. We talked, slowly, carefully, like strangers exchanging pieces of broken glass. He didn't deny it, didn't fight it, didn't cry, but something in his voice did. He said he was young, scared, drunk more often than not, that he left before he even knew if my mom was pregnant, that he figured, if she didn't come looking, she didn't want him to. Funny how silence can destroy more than words ever could. I didn't forgive him. Not right away. I wasn't calling for closure, I wasn't even sure what I wanted. But something in me needed to see. So I asked, "Would you meet me?" He paused, then said something I didn't expect. "I've thought about you every year on your birthday." I didn't cry. I wanted to, but I'd spent too many years building walls. He agreed. We picked a city halfway between us, a Tuesday afternoon in early fall. I didn't tell anyone. Not my mom, not my friends, not even myself, really. Because what if he didn't show? What if I was chasing an illusion? I arrived at the diner first. I picked a table by the window. I wore the jacket I always wore when I was nervous. It still smelled like home. Every man that walked in, I tensed. Is that him? No, too tall, too clean, too young, too something. And then he walked in. There was no music, no slow motion movie moment, just a man in worn jeans, faded shirt, limp in his step. But I knew it was him. He looked at me like he was still trying to decide if I was real. We didn't hug, not right away. We just sat, 2 lives separated by decades and choices, facing each other over chipped coffee cups. The first few minutes were filled with the clink of spoons, the hum of fluorescent lights. Then, finally, he spoke. "You look like your mother." I laughed. Sharp, bitter. "Yeah." She raised me. He nodded. Eyes heavy. I deserved that. He didn't make excuses. Didn't offer Hallmark lines. He just listened. I told him about my childhood. The birthdays, the scraped knees, the graduations, all the moments he wasn't there for. I didn't sugarcoat it, didn't scream either. I just told the truth, and he listened like a man drowning in it. Then he told me about his life. The stints in rehab, the jobs lost, the nights he almost called. He showed me a photo, a daughter, younger than me, my half-sister. I stared at her smile and felt something strange jealousy. Maybe, but also something like hope. We spent hours there, not father and son, just 2 people trying to understand how they got here. And then, as the sun dipped low outside the window, he said, "Can I hug you?" I didn't answer with words. I stood, he stood, and we did. Awkward, tight. Years collapsed into seconds. It wasn't perfect. We didn't suddenly become best friends. He didn't make up for a lifetime in one afternoon, but for the first time in my life, I saw his eyes up close, heard my laugh in his throat, felt the weight of the question I'd carried ease, just a little, and as I sat on the train home, watching the world blur by, I thought, so this is what it feels like to meet the missing piece. They say closure is a door you close behind you, but for me, it felt more like a window, one you crack open, just enough to let the air change. I didn't walk away from that diner with a father, not in the way most people mean it. I walked away with a man, flawed, worn, not a villain, not a hero. Just a man who once made a decision that changed my life before I even had the chance to live it. And for the first time, I could finally say his name out loud without tasting blood in my mouth. I still don't know if I'll see him again. We talk sometimes, messages here and there. Holidays are complicated. He sends me updates, photos of my half-sister at school. He asks how I'm doing. Sometimes. It's not a fairy tale. There's no soundtrack, no final embrace that undoes years of silence. But that's the thing about real stories. They don't end clean. They unravel, slowly, into something that feels a lot like acceptance. I told my mom, eventually. She was quiet, didn't cry, didn't yell. She just said, I always wondered if you'd go looking. I hoped, if you did, he'd be better. I didn't know what to say. So I just said what was true. He's not better. But he showed up, and that mattered. Because sometimes the most important thing someone can do is show up, even if it's late, even if it's once. I think about him more often than I admit. Not because I need him now, but because that meeting gave me something I didn't know I was missing. A face, a voice, a memory I can carry, instead of an absence I have to drag. Sometimes I still wonder what it would have been like if he'd stayed. If I'd grown up with him teaching me how to throw a ball, or fix a sink, or stand up for myself. But here's the truth. Who I became was forged in the absence, not the presence. His leaving broke something, but it also built something else. Resilience, depth, and a kind of empathy I wouldn't trade for anything. And meeting him, just once, gave me the permission to stop wondering. I think we all have a person like that. Someone whose absence shaped us as much as their presence might have. And maybe we don't all get the chance to meet them, to speak, to say, you hurt me, or even just, I exist. But if you do, if you ever do, there's something sacred in it. Not because it fixes the past, but because it frees you from it. Now, when people ask me about my father, I don't flinch. I tell them I met him just once, and that was enough. Because sometimes, once is all you need. To look into the eyes of the person who left, and realize finally, deeply, that you never needed their permission to become whole. And if he's listening wherever he is, coffee in hand, guilt in his chest, I'd tell him this. You missed a lot. You missed the hard parts, the beautiful parts, the small, quiet moments that built me. But for that one afternoon, you didn't miss me. And that was everything.